This is my mom and dad, Kelly and Matt Jones. My name is Reece Jones and I'm 10 years old. We live in Sacramento, California. This is my Glut1 story. Please share to help more kids get diagnosed. Thank you.
This is our son Reece. He's a little shy and doesn't really want to talk on the camera, but he is 10 and he was diagnosed with Glut1 3 days before he turned 8. Well, our son was 14 months old when we first noticed that something was wrong. I was in the laundry room and my husband called out to me and said that our son was trying to crawl because he was developmentally delayed, so he was just starting to try to crawl, and every time he was trying to crawl his legs kind of kept kicking out from underneath him, and so he was holding them and his legs were just jerking uncontrollably. And after about maybe a half an hour or so, we decided, you know what, I think we need to go to the emergency room. We went to the emergency room and of course we wound up sitting there for several hours, and by the time we got to see a doctor, he had stopped at that point, and their recommendation was, well, if it ever happens again, to start recording it with video. So that's pretty much what we did, was we just started recording all of his episodes that he was having. He's not the typical Glut1 child. He's never had seizures, so he just has the movement disorder. It pretty much took us close to 7 years to find a diagnosis for him.
I think that was the worst part of it all, is waiting.
Yeah, the waiting.
Not knowing what was wrong. You know, everything we got tested for, came back negative. Things we got tested for were things that you would never want your child to be tested for, but that was what you had to do to try to find an answer. And every time you would get one of these horrible things to be tested for, it would take 3 months, wait for the results, and that's hard to wait, not knowing.
And the other frustrating part was there were times when they would say, okay, well, you need to go see this type of doctor, and then it would take 6 months to get in to see that doctor, and you'd go and they'd refer you to the lab, get a blood test, and it would come back normal. And they'd say, okay, well, now you need to go see this kind of doctor. And then it would be, we're calling just to let you know that we got your referral, but it's going to take about 6 months before we call you to make an appointment, and then it's another 3 to 6 months before we can get you in. So sometimes there was a whole year that would pass just waiting to get that specific doctor's appointment. It was very frustrating.
The whole time watching your son have movements multiple times a day for any given amount of time, 15 minutes to 3 hours, and not knowing what was wrong with him. And everything he tried to do to find out came back with no answers.
Yes, I mean, we pretty much exhausted every specialist that we could find in where we live in Sacramento, California. We had gone to neurology, we've been to movement disorder specialists, rheumatology, then we went down to Children's Hospital in Los Angeles to see a movement disorder specialist. We went to Stanford. We went back to Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. Then we were given a diagnosis at 7 years of age of cerebral palsy. And so we thought, well, at least we have a diagnosis now.
We quickly realized that that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Because there were supposed to be challenges that he was going to meet and delays that we were going to expect. He kind of seemed to be okay with where he was. He wasn't digressing. He wasn't getting worse. Again, back to square one.
So we finally were able to see another movement disorder specialist at University of California, San Francisco. And she had recommended some different testing to be done, and finally we saw a geneticist at Kaiser Permanente in Sacramento, and they did the whole exome gene testing, and that was in October of 2014. And then in January of 2015, 3 days before his 8th birthday, we got a phone call and said, we know what's wrong. I just remember standing there like No, are you sure this is what he has? And they said, no, he has glucose transporter type 1 deficiency syndrome. And I know that we were lucky because right away, I mean, I still have the picture of our whiteboard that I was writing all the notes down, and she said, there's a registry that you can get on, there's a foundation, and they're great resource. They do conferences, and so we were very lucky that, I mean, right off the bat, we were told about all these wonderful resources.
Right.
That night, I got online and I saw that there was a conference going to be in Orlando. So, you know, thankfully, between ourselves and all of our parents, they said, can't afford to send all 3 of you, but somebody needs to go to learn how to take care of Reece. I attended the conference in Orlando in 2015, and it was just the most overwhelming experience walking in and being in a room of people that understood our life.
I didn't get to go, and that's what I'm experiencing now.
Yeah, this is his first time.
It's my first time being around people who understand me, understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, understand him and what we have to go through. I can try to explain that to many people, and they follow along for a while, and then they go, you just know that they lost it.
They have that glazed over look in their eyes.
And then I go, okay, I can see that you're not quite getting it. Imagine how I felt with my son. And I had no choice. I had to do this. And then people hear about what we have to do and what he goes through. And they say, I don't know how you guys do it. I said, I don't know any different.
It's your kid.
That's my life.
You'll do whatever you have to. You fight for him. I remember when we were going through all those years of waiting for appointments, I would tell the receptionists at the doctor's offices, get used to my voice. What time do you open? And they'd say, we open at 8. And I'd say, okay, every day at 8:05, you'll be getting a phone call from me until you can get us in for an appointment. For example, you know, the dietitian that he meets with is in Oakland, which is about an hour and a half away from us, and she only comes to Sacramento once every other month. We get to meet with her when she comes into town, and of course we have access to talk to her. But
she's very good, though. She allows us to call, text. I mean, she's very available to us in that way, at least.
You know, kind of shows how specialized and how few people know about it. Since the diagnosis, we've noticed. I mean, well, our son has experienced an extreme decrease in his movement episodes since he started the diet.
From multiple movements a day, minimum of at least 1 a day, at the most probably 6.
Mm-hmm.
And they could range, like I said, anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours. To watch your son sit there and move uncontrollably, knowing there's nothing that he can do, nothing that I can do, other than maybe try to get him to fall asleep, and that's not an easy thing to do when your body's just going. Since the diet, it rarely happens. It's been a miracle in my mind.
You know, he uses a wheelchair on occasion.
Still gets fatigued, yeah.
And I still take it to school. This year, I could probably count on one hand the number of times he had to use it at school. And of course, it would always be, gosh, he hasn't used it in a long time. Wonder if I even need to bring it to school anymore. And then, like, that day, we would get the phone call, you know, we had to strap him in, and we've got the weighted blanket. You know, we've kind of learned not to jinx ourselves that way. We've noticed that he has really flourished in his academics. He still has things that he struggles with, but he also has things that he excels at.
I mean, everything on a whole has improved.
But the one thing that we did experience was compliance with the diet, you know, with the amount of fat intake that is required. He had a very hard time drinking cream.
Yeah.
And you know, he wouldn't eat it whipped because of some sensory challenges with the texture. You know, about 1.5 years ago, we started entertaining the idea of a G-tube, which I learned about at the last conference. Another mom that I had met had talked to us about it, and so we got some children's books about it, and we talked to him about it. And
we didn't push it. It wasn't anything that we were in a hurry to do. You know, we said, okay, let's give it some time and see if this gets better, because it would take him, on average, an hour to drink 1/4 of a cup of cream and oil. But who wants to drink cream and oil? Not me, not him. Drink your cream. I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. Reece, I'm sitting right here. It's taking an hour. No, it hasn't. That just took its toll on all of us. Would you like to talk to a doctor about it? I said, yeah. So she made a phone appointment. He actually spoke to the doctor, asked questions, and the doctor explained things to him. And like I said, he asked some questions. I came home from work because I wasn't there for that conversation. And he said, Daddy? I said, well, yeah, what? I said, you had a conversation with somebody today, huh? He goes, yeah, I talked to the doctor, and I've made a decision. I said, you've made a decision? I said, we haven't even talked about it. He goes, no, I've made a decision. So what's that? I'm going to get the tubie. I said, well, if that's what you want, that's what we're going to do. It's your decision. It's your life. It's your body. It's your diet. If you think that's going to make things easier, we're all for it. We'd given him time to make up his decision. We'd given him time to try to do this orally, and it wasn't working. So it was his decision. And that has freed up hours in our day, in his life. It gives him time to be a kid. It gives us time to not get on him and give him a bad time about hurry up, drink your cream. It makes eating a little more enjoyable. Not something that he has to dread, drinking cream after everything he does. So that has been amazing. It's really helped out a lot.
And we were lucky enough through the wonders of Facebook and the different Glut1 groups that are out there on Facebook that we kind of met another family that has a son the same age that also has a G-tube, and they were nice enough to make a video for us to show us what it looked like, to show our son that it didn't hurt, how it worked, how quickly he could get his fat through the tube. I think that was also, that just sealed the deal for him. He was like, I want this, I'm ready. And
he didn't want to waste any time. We got on the phone and we made an appointment, and within a couple months we had it done.
You know, he's excited about it. He likes to show it off.
Show it.
He likes to show people how it works. Do you want to see how my tubie works? And he recently got a G-tube. And for those who aren't really too familiar with what that is, it's a feeding tube. But he still eats his protein and his carbs by mouth. Whatever fat he's not getting from from his protein, we supplement with coconut oil, and also if we need to add a little bit extra with some keto and it goes into his G-tube. And do you want to lift up your shirt and show us your belly? So he just has this little button. This is called a Mickey button. This is one of the types of G-tubes that there are. And we just have this extension tube that hooks into it, and then we fill the syringe, and it maybe takes us less than 2 minutes to give him his oil. And are you much happier now that you don't have to drink cream? Yeah. So we've told him that if he ever decides one day that he doesn't want to have it anymore, it's just as easy as taking it out. The doctor would take it out, and then he doesn't have to have it anymore. Just reaching out to the other families and having other kids, say, I don't ever want to get rid of my G-tube, or I love my G-tube, or just showing that it doesn't hurt.
We hadn't heard anybody who had a bad experience.
You twist it and turn it, and that doesn't hurt, does it? Can you feel when the stuff is going in your tube? A little bit. We have at school, he still gets to eat lunch with his friends, and he goes outside for recess after that, and about 5 minutes before the end of recess, his aide and him go to the office, and there's a nurse from our school district that comes and does his oil for him, and then he's on his way.
Free to go.
So, and he's even learning how to do it himself. He likes to assist with the process. He helps us clamp off the tube, and sometimes he'll even press the plunger on the syringe for us. And we tried to make it into a really positive experience. We had a big countdown to surgery, and I had little whipping cream cartons that were numbered. So every day he got to tear a whipping cream carton off and rip it up and throw it in the garbage, and he was that much closer.
He definitely ripped them up and threw them in the garbage every time.
Because he was not a fan of the cream. Some kids,
kids like it.
They down it and it doesn't bother them.
What day is today?
Tubie day.
Yeah, are you excited? Yeah. Are you going to take your last cream down? All right, let me see. Now what are you going to do with it? What do we say? Goodbye. Our family is so willing to share with other families that might not know about it, or
anything we can do to help another family. If you have a question, anything, I'm here to help. You know, we want to help each other. This community is amazing.
The tube itself has changed the diet for us, but it's freed up so much time for him to just be a kid.
Well, not only that, family time. We can be a family. We can spend more time together. It's not taking an hour, 3 hours out of our day. It's a lot of work.
Yes. I think a lot of it is, you know, the tips that we learn here at the conferences, and just talking to other Glut1 families, sharing recipes, people throwing out questions on Facebook. My daughter is tired of this recipe. Does anybody have something else?
Here,
And
try this.
you know, just being able to share those types of things and finding things that can work in your own everyday application. It is a lot of work, and it's very overwhelming for a new family when they start keto. I cried a lot. I would lock myself in the bathroom and cry so my son didn't see me crying. But it's hard.
I'm trying not to cry all the way through this interview. What are you laughing at, kiddo?
It's the amount of work that you have to put into it is so worth it, because
right.
He has a quality life
Good
now.
question. Can life still be great?
Yeah, it's greater.
Right.
It's much greater.
We have an answer. We know what to do. We have a plan of action. It may not be an easy course of action, but we have information. We have knowledge. We know what to do. Try 6.5 years of not knowing what to do, not knowing what's wrong with your child. The stress on a parent is awful, especially me. I'm working. She calls. He's moving. He's having a bad day. I can't do anything. I'm stuck at work. But now I have to think about work, and I have to worry about my son. You know, I don't really worry about that anymore. Life is great. We make the best out of every single day.
You know, the biggest message I would have for newly diagnosed people is don't be afraid to ask questions of the rest of the Glut1 community, because we've all been there.
We all know that feeling of
what
deer in headlights.
Yeah.
What do I do? You're just given this information and you don't have anybody you can really talk to. The field is so small. You can't call your doctor, your family doctor, because they probably don't have answers. It's really difficult, but we're all here to answer questions and help you understand what's going on.
I mean, the prime example I would say is when he did get his G-tube a few months ago, and we were in the hospital. We were literally on speakerphone with our friends that had made the video for us, and our doctors were asking that mom questions about how much keto-cal needs to be mixed with how much water, and do you put in on a continuous feed overnight for when he was, you know, first in the hospital, and just the doctors that had never even heard of it.
Yep.
You know, you do have to become well versed in it, because most people don't know about it, but there's so many excellent resources through the Glut1 Foundation and just through the parents that we've met. You know, I love coming to the conferences, because yesterday I had someone come up and say, Glenna asked me, you know, would you mind talking to another parent that has a child on a feeding tube? And I just love being able to help those other families that answer questions. You know, this morning in one of the breakout sessions, another parent brought someone and said, oh, good, I'm glad that you guys are talking, because, you know, I wanted to hook you up with each other. And, you know, that parent said, thank you so much for sharing about the G-tube, because not much is said about it. You know, so many people think it's a scary thing that our child is a feeding tube.
Well, your child is already different, and you don't want to make them more different. That's kind of the way it is, and why we didn't push it. Let it be his decision. He loves it. He loves it.